Hi there, and welcome to the Never-Ending Story, part 45.
Well, that's fine, but I missed episodes 1 to 44, so get me up to speed on the muscle cars.
Obviously you missed them because these are not muscle cars. These are pony cars. Mustang versus Camaro, once again.
Well, whatever they're called, let's find out which one's best.
Meet the 2018 Ford Mustang GT. This particular Stang is outfitted with Performance Pack 1. Why not the recently announced Performance Pack 2? Because Performance Pack 2 is 6 months away. P-Pack 1 includes 6-piston Brembos, extensive chassis bracing and recalibration, a torsion rear end, a big wing, sportier electronics, dual-mode exhaust, busy black wheels, and new Michelin PS4 tires. As for the Camaro, the 1LE adds sticky Goodyear Supercar 3 tires, bigger Brembo brakes, magnetic dampers, GM's near magical eLSD rear end with 5 levels of performance traction management, dual mode exhaust, and regardless of engine, all Camaro 1LEs come with a 6-speed manual transmission and a black hood. Despite the Ford weighing 117 pounds more, the two pony cars seem pretty evenly matched on paper. Of course, the real world is full of surprises.
Johnny, this place is awesome, but shouldn't we be at a road or on a racetrack?
Well, I think with normal sports cars we would do that, but since they're pony cars, we got to worry about cowboy science.
Okay.
And what matters to cowboy scientists? Burnouts, noise, and drag racing.
Okay, so how about we take these two cars and we race 1 mile that way?
You're really starting to get the hang of this.
Yeehaw.
Drivers ready. 3, 2, 1, go.
I don't know much about cowboy science, but I do know that I jumped in the right car for this 1 mile drag race. The Mustang's engine is a monster. It lacks some of the low-down torque of the Camaro, no bad thing on a slippery dry lake bed, but once it's up and running, this thing just pulls and pulls. We ran this race over and over, and the Mustang won every time, hitting 157 miles an hour at the finish line to the Camaro's 151. Our test team ran proper numbers on the cars too, and the Camaro just pipped the Mustang to 60 miles an hour and over the quarter, but the Mustang was coming on strong. Another few feet and it would be ahead, and then, as we've seen, the Camaro would never see it again. Let's chalk this one up for the Ford. What a motor! Nobody could be happier than me to be in a big, ugly car park in Fontana again, because it means figure of 8. And since I joined Motor Trend, this is my favourite part of testing.
Yeah, except that you don't do it right. You just turn into a big drift fest. Yeah, again, that's cool. It looks nice and all. Remember, this is actually a test. We're trying to see, how quickly a car, when driven properly, can go around the thing.
Okay.
Serious testing has its place, and you need to know the two cars' figure 8 numbers. The Mustang ran a solid 24 seconds flat, beating an M4 by 1/10 of a second. Pretty terrific, right? That is until you realize a Porsche 991 GT3, a 911 Turbo S, and a Nissan Nismo GTR all get around the figure 8 in 22.9 seconds. And so does the Camaro. For real. That's supercar levels of handling in a $46,000 car. However, we're here for the cowboy science, which means burnouts.
This is probably the most childish thing you can do in a car, which is why Johnny loves it. And you know what? He's pretty good at it, and so is the Mustang. Again, the serious test numbers say it trails the Camaro, but by pony car rules, it keeps on hitting the bullseye. This thing flies, it sounds awesome, and it does epic burnouts. Maybe we should call it Now for the Ford. Well, if that's all you care about, then that's fine, but in 2018, a pony car needs to be multi-talented, and that means we need to get out on the road and then hit the racetrack. So let's go, Johnny, let's hit the canyons. Johnny? Johnny, can we go now? Okay, I'll just wait over here for a bit.
Mr. Bovington.
Yes,
So, your first time behind the wheel, really, on the road of a 6th-gen Camaro?
it is. And I have to say,
Yeah?
I like one feeling. It's one of those cars. I jumped in it, and within one gear shift, basically, I was like, it feels right.
Well, it's funny how you can kind of suss that out. Like, I remember also the GT350R, like one corner, I was like, this is about as good as cars get. Porsche GT3, like,
Yeah, all those good cars.
Yeah. And this, I remember the first time I drove this was a Best Driver's Car a couple years ago, where it finished a respectable 4th place. But I remember figure 8ing it, and I was like, oh, this is a special thing.
It's an impressive car, and I think what I like about it is it's not ruled by technology. I think some of the European manufacturers are starting to rely so heavily on the tech, or concentrate so heavily on it, they're forgetting what a driver actually wants in the first place.
Well
this
said.
car, it uses the tech to empower me to do what I want to do and to enjoy this car. And that's such a cool thing to do.
Yeah, and again, if you look at it on paper, right, it's a pushrod V8. For some reason, people have a problem with pushrods. But I think anyone who has a problem with pushrods hasn't driven this engine. Yeah. Manual transmission, so it seems low tech, but to me what's so hysterical is, like, this car is one of those rare upsides of platform sharing, meaning that, you know, GM dumped $1 billion or whatever to develop the Alpha platform for Cadillac to compete with BMW, and then they're like, oh god, we gotta do a new Camaro. All right, let's make it a Camaro too.
Yeah.
So, it's this, you know, pretty high-tech Cadillac chassis.
But you talk about the platform, to me this just feels like a bespoke sports car chassis. It feels properly focused. I love the way it just turns and turns and turns. Like, you never carry enough speed in. There's so much grip. And then mid-corner, when you want to stay on the power, understeer just doesn't arrive. Instead, you get this sensation of the rear just moving enough, not sliding, just pointing you around the corner.
Oh, it feels like a good 911, like actually like the new GT3, where, you know, when you're about to turn in and you kind of lift a little bit, the rear takes a set and it's always pointing in the right direction, which I think is just good engineering. And again, there's a lot of high tech in that, right? So it's using the electronic limited slip differential, ELSD, that's on the Z06, that's on the ATSV, the CTSV. This has the magnetic ride control, actually very high tech, even though it's this pushrod V8 old school manual. It is super high tech, but they package it where it's like, oh man, it's this brain dead muscle car thing. Anything but, it's a modern sports car that can kind of compete with any other sports car.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's got a balance of gritty, sort of old school physical feeling about it, with this polish, like an actual proper polish that I didn't expect from a Camaro. I'm super impressed with it, and I love the character of it. I love that it's got an E-diff, but that it locks up really, like when you're doing a maneuver or something like that.
No,
you know?
yeah, it kind of feels like a race car at like 2 miles an hour and making a U-turn.
It's cool. It's super cool. But yeah, it flows down the road. It's got balance. It's got polish. It's got manual gearbox, which is just lush.
Yeah.
And the engine, who cares if it's got push rods or whatever it is?
This is a head-to-head. We do have the brand new 2018 Mustang GT Performance Pack 1 that we should get to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, have you driven Mustangs a lot?
We now have the GT in Europe, and we have it even in the UK in right-hand drive. So I've driven that quite a lot in all sorts of different conditions. I've driven the GT350R, which I absolutely love.
Sure.
And I have to say, the GT is going to have to have found some of that 350R magic if it's going to get close to this thing.
Well, as I like to say, only one way to find out.
Okay, so Mustang time, new Mustang.
Yeah, and I'd say the one thing, if you were to really just kind of like analyze these cars without driving them, the major difference is the interior. I think Chevy pulled a fast one. They gave us what we call the journalist special. So every performance option, not one single other option to keep the price down if we were a price sensitive publication. But as a result, I mean, that Camaro interior, we didn't talk about it, but oh, it's bad. You know, I mean, that plastic is like, ow, ow, ow. Where this is like soft touch and leather up here. Chevy put like one little 25-cent strip of leather they threw in for free, and that's it.
You basically, if you get to the end of a journey, still in possession of all your digits, you're a happy guy.
Yeah, so the Ford interior quality, I think, is definitive winner.
Yeah, okay, I agree with that, but I have to say there's another big difference, even sitting in the passenger seat, and that's that this car feels bigger. I feel like I'm sitting 2 feet higher, and yet the car feels narrower, so it doesn't have that real hunkered down, hooked up feel that I get with a Camaro.
Yeah, look, from where I'm sitting, I mean, I feel like I'm sitting on a stack of phone books, kind of driving a waterbed.
No, it feels like the whole car is a bit more true to its GT name than the sports car name. I mean, how does it feel? Because I think there's another big dynamic difference.
That's the driving the waterbed part, and it's the steering's a mess.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it is. You'd think with the 2018 refresh they get it right, but you know, if you're watching my hands, I'm turning and then I'm almost immediately countering back in some direction because it's not accurate. There's a lot of guesswork. Yeah, zero feedback. Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is because it's variable, right? So there's comfort, sport, and normal, and we're in sport right now. But the tragedy for me is that once you're actually in a corner and you've got your steering angle, it's a pretty good car.
I feel the same. We talked about how the Camaro feels right within 10 yards of being in it. The Ford, it's like a voyage of discovery.
It's 10 miles before you understand what's happening.
Yeah, and it's not encouraging you to do that. It's sort of holding you at arm's length, and the steering is a big part of that. But like you say, I was surprised. My first reaction was, wow, this thing's nowhere near. And then the more I drove it, once I started to lean on the car and feel the balance, I actually became more impressed. I liked it more. Once the body's taken a set, it's the body control, then the car feels good.
And so I think we have a combination of the initial steering is no good, and then the suspension, this has the magnetic suspension that's part of the performance pack, just like the Camaro has, but it's not tuned as well.
It doesn't feel as focused, that's for sure.
Yeah, where the Camaro's just like, it's single-minded, you know, it's like, it beats up a road. And this is, well, it's a nice GT, and I've got air-conditioned seats, and I've got this beautiful navigation system. Camaro's like, no, suffer, but suffer quickly. You know? And it's almost a shame because this engine is brilliant.
I actually really like the engine.
Sounds brilliant.
It sounds great. It feels so much quicker than the 2017 car.
It is, yeah. And you know, the shifter's really good. I don't like the clutch. The clutch is way too long, and the uptake's at the last 10% of it.
Yeah, but lovely engine, lovely gearbox. Yeah. Actually, one thing I'm going to say in its favour, it gets the balance between grip and power really well. The Camaro is a grip fest.
Yeah, it's all grip.
Yeah, this car, there's more understeer, but there's also more of an ability to steer the car a bit more through your own means, through the power. So you can turn in, feel some understeer, back off, get on the power, move the car around. And as a driver, I love that.
I mean, we're at 93 miles an hour. We're boogieing down this road. It's great. But it's just, there's this weird learning curve, which is unfortunate, you know?
Yeah, I think there is. I think you have to learn to trust it. It doesn't give it up freely.
Right.
But it may be that on the track, that balance between grip and power might be really fun. I love the accuracy and the just lockdown sense of purpose of that Camaro, but maybe the Ford can fight back.
Let us recap. Given enough space, the Mustang is faster than the Camaro. It sounds way better, and for burnouts, this is your winning ticket. But man, that Camaro SS1LE is a special car on the road. Like, exceptionally good. Anyhow, on to the streets of Willow. Cowboy Science flies right out the window, as do seat of the pants automotive journalist impressions. It's all about hard data, and Randy is warming up in order to set his hot laps. As for Death Row and me, we're trying, quite badly, to keep up. Hey Randy, how you doing?
Johnny!
What's up, buddy? I got Jethro here driving the Mustang. He's still learning not only pony cars, but streets of Willow, so I figured this would be a good time for him. How you liking that Camaro?
You know, I love this chassis. The Alpha chassis is so good. I know the 1LE well. It has always been a real driver's car. It has this magic balance of almost no understeer, even a little bit of oversteer, but it's perfectly balanced in corner entry. It has a stable entry and a neutral middle. That's a rare balance, and I just love it on track. Look at this, I can do this one hand.
So Randy, I'm struggling to keep up in this Mustang, and I know it's probably me, but you drove this car earlier. What did you make of it on the track?
Well, Jethro, you don't know the track yet here at Streets of Willow, but when I drove the Mustang, I thought it was a very comfortable street car.
What's wrong with the Mustang? Because Jethro and I, we both felt the car was pretty soft.
It might have too much body roll. I don't think it's going to have the good kind of control that I feel in these Camaros.
I'm impressed with the car in some ways. I think it's a big improvement over the last one I drove. But out here, there's nowhere to hide. And it's when you ask the car to do a series of things in a short space of time. So change left, right, brake, get on the power. It just can't cope through here. It just feels so soft and so heavy.
What's interesting to me is that both cars have, magnetic dampers from the same supplier, and they're just tuned so different. I always find it weird when the same piece of hardware is just done in two different ways. You see this a lot with the ZF 8-speed transmission, where it's brilliant in some applications and lousy in others. And I'm kind of gonna say these shocks are really letting the Mustang down.
But it appears to me that the Mustang orientation is more towards comfort, whereas the Camaro 1LE, mind you, is very much track oriented.
But what about this engine and gearbox, Randy? Engine and box are fantastic, I think.
They are. I love the engine. For just 5 liters, it's so strong, broad power band. The shifter's terrific. It's got a real precise feel. And you know what else I like? I like that instant response when I go to the brake pedal.
Okay, Randy, so the Mustang, I think we like the engine a little bit better, but which one of these two pony cars do you think is going to set the fast lap?
I'm leaning towards Camaro, Johnny. The Camaro's firmer. I don't know if the Mustang's braking and its powertrain are going to make up the difference.
Yeah, Randy, we're kind of thinking the same thing, but I think Jethro wants a few more laps just to, get his yah-yahs off.
I need to learn the track.
Yeah, he's got to learn the track.
I've got to do one lap where I hit at least one apex in this car.
I think Jethro's doing a great job for having never been to this track before.
Also, Randy, you can stop holding back now.
Yeah, take out the third gear now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, we'll get it.
That's the wall.
Maybe we won't get him.
Yeah, well, he's pretty good.
You got a little wild there, Jethro, but...
Yeah, I was just, finding the limit of the grip or something like that.
You've heard of the Swedish flick, that's the English flick.
the Mustang is no match for the 1LE on track. In fact, the Camaro is outrageously fast and only beaten by the real elite, GTR Nismo, 911 Turbo, Corvette Z06. Randy said it was one of the best handling cars he'd ever driven at streets.
This is the hard part. The 2018 Ford Mustang GT showed so much promise during the Cowboy Science portion of this episode. I mean, we shot that mile-long drag race at El Mirage maybe 25 times, and the Mustang hammered the Camaro each and every time. However, once we stopped acting like deranged teenagers and began thinking like adults, the Mustang was completely reined in and left in the dust by the incredible SS1LE. Cowboy Science be damned. As far as semi-affordable pony cars go, this Camaro is the segment stud. Therefore, the winner of this head-to-head is the Chevrolet Camaro SS1LE. Until Performance Pack 2 comes out. See you again in 6 months.